Turn it up.
Socialist country.
Hello, my friends. We're going to be hitting it again. Hitting it again. I'm so inspired by the Masonic attack happening in the War Drummer Facebook group page. Yes, they are in there. And it's funny. You should check it out. Go to Facebook. Check it out. We are going to be looking at God and the Keystone, using their materials. We'll be right back. Folks, the Trump coin is just so beautiful, and especially now that our great president has been exonerated, and all of that display of the trash we saw today from Nadler. It's just a game, folks. It's a game. It's a game to get you to freak out, to make you scared, and to get into the narrative, into the heads of those Democrats around the country who think that there's some hope of beating him in 2020. And we know it's not. Look at that silver bar. Look at that silver bar. That thing is awesome, huh? So is that Trump coin. Man, Noble Gold has some awesome deals for Memorial Day. And you can get that Trump coin and that silver bar for like $200. You need to check it out. Go to the link in the video description. There's a bunch of promo codes underneath. You can get money amounts off, but use the promo code DEACON for $5 off. Deacon Gold if you want $100 off the gold coin. Deacon 30 to get $30 off of the combo where you get the Trump coin and you get that silver bar. You need to check it out, folks. It's awesome. All right. God and the Keystone. We're going to be using a couple of books here. And one is both, well, I'm going to show you the Encyclopedia of Freemasonry. You can get an Encyclopedia of Freemasonry, but it's going to be a newer version, and I'll put a link in there for that one day. But this is very important. Ancient Freemasonry, an introduction into Masonic archaeology. Very important. Christian Masons, they think that Masonry is a Christian organization, especially the lower level ones. They really have no idea. And the other book we're using, and the one I'm using, is a quite old 3-volume set. Is Mackey's revised Encyclopedia of Freemasonry. This is, I think this is like copyrighted at, we want to go back as far back as we can. Let's see, where are these? Here we go. 1909. So, it's even got your little signature stuff that you can name, street address, the chapter, rank, so we're going to be looking at this. So if you followed along with us on the last video, let me get this over here so I can stop coming out of the scene. If you followed along with it last, we kind of went over a little bit of the history, and we're going to be doing that a little more. But I showed where the Freemasons worship the light. If you're a Christian Freemason, if you're for every religion, there's a Mason, right? Because Masons are not atheists. They believe in a God, whatever God they want to believe in. And so pretty much if you following with us, they believe in whatever God they want to control, whatever people group they want to control believes in. So the Christian chapters, well, they're out to control Christians. Muslims, same thing. You know, like I posted my post about last night's show, and Christopher C. said, "Sir, I am a Freemason, and the lies you are spreading are disgusting. We do more to help our country and communities," sounds just like Barack Obama, doesn't it? "In communities that you can possibly imagine. Please stop with your false accusations, because you have no idea what you are talking about, and it's people like you that have given us a reason to stay secret. It's your character and your lack of knowledge and lack of integrity that will keep you from ever knowing who we are and what we represent." And folks, and Chris C., it's the Lord Jesus Christ that will protect me from the lies that you have fallen for. If you're a Mason and you're in the chat, if you want to remain, please be respectful. If you troll us or whatever you want to call it, you will get banned. You will be banned. If you're respectful, that's fine. If you commandeer, if you do nothing but pull attention away from this show during the chat, you will be banned. Moderators, please, if they pull listeners away from what I'm doing, ban them. Ban them. First, from Mackey's Encyclopedia. God. Who and what is God to the Mason, to the Freemason? God. Let's see. I don't want to read this whole thing. God. A belief in the existence of God is an essential point of speculative Freemasonry. So essential, indeed, that it is a landmark of the order that no atheist can be made a Freemason. Nor is this left to an inference, for a specific declaration to that effect is demanded as an indispensable preparation for initiation. Hence, Hutchinson says that the worship of God, and I quote, "was the first and cornerstone on which our origins thought it expedient to place the foundation of Masonry." Sounds all right so far, right? Sounds all right. The religion of Freemasonry, did you hear what I just said? The religion, it's right here. Do I need to show you? The religion of Freemasonry is cosmopolitan. Cosmopolitan. Universal. It's cosmopolitan, universal. But the required belief in God is not incompatible with this universality, for it is the belief of all peoples. So Masonry itself calls itself a religion. Calls itself a religion. Be assured, says Godfrey Higgins, that God listen closely, that God is equally present with the pious Hindu in the temple, the Jew in the synagogue, the Mohammedan or the Islam in the mosque, and the Christian in the church. What happened right there? What happened right there? Masonry, out of their own mouths, says God, the one God, the God that they believe in, which is different than our God. And may I show you this one more time, because this must be at the forefront of everything. Deuteronomy 4:39, acknowledge today and take to heart that the Lord is God. The Lord, Yahweh, the Lord is God in heaven above and on the earth beneath. There is no other. Jehovah is not Yahweh. Jehovah is nature's God. No, he is a pantheistic God. Masons believe that God is equally present with the pious Hindu in the temple, the Jew in the synagogue, the Muslim in the mosque, and the Christian in the church. They say that it's all the same God. That God is the same for all these people. And we know that that is a lie. If you are in the lodge and you have fallen for the lie that the God you are worshiping is the God of the Bible, you are in error. You are in error. I'll continue. There never has been a time since the revival of Freemasonry when this belief in God as a superintending power did not form a part of the system. The very earliest lectures that are extant, going back almost to the beginning of the 18th century, contain precisely the same question as to the trust in God, which is found in those to the present day. And if you believe that Masonry was born in some lodge room in the medieval times, you are mistaken. Masonry is as old as man and was perfected in the temple tops of Chaldea, India, Babylon, and Egypt, and all of that. And I'm going to show you. There's only one God. And the God of Freemasonry is not the God of the Bible. He is not God. And I'm going to show you who he is. I've showed you last show. The light, the Luce. Lucifer is his name. And Luciferians are worshipers of the light. Okay, the very earliest lectures that are extant, going back almost to the beginning of the 18th century, contain precisely the same question as the trust in God which is found in those of the present day. And the oldest manuscript constitutions dating as far back as the 15th century at least, all commence with contain an invocation to the mighty Father in heaven. There never was a time when the dogma did not form an essential part of the Masonic system. See deism, or also Switzerland, France, and the Independent and Regular National Grand Lodge of France and the French colonies. From their own words, ladies and gentlemen, that the God of the religion of Freemasonry is not the God of the Bible, because our God is not Allah. Our God is not Brahman. Our God is Yahweh. And he's completely different. And there's only one way to get to him, and that's through Jesus Christ. Okay, Let me do this really quick. I'll be right back. And we'll go to the keystone. Folks, you need to support this channel. Support this channel. Noble Gold supports me. You know, I said it yesterday. I'm so thankful to you guys because you have made it possible for Noble Gold to support me. If you did not buy these coins, they would not be supporting me, and I would not be in front of you today. You have done this, and I'm so thankful. This official President Trump 2020 Freedom Coin is a celebration of all the accomplishments President Trump has achieved during his entire time in office. And he's been exonerated, folks. Man, let me tell you, that jobs report, he's created more jobs than any other president. The GDP, 3.2, so high. We have a wonderful president, and this is a way to commemorate him and his accomplishments. For the month of May, for Memorial Day, you can get this Trump coin and the silver bar, this one, for $239. And if you use the offer code DEACON30, you'll get $30 off that combo. If you want just a silver coin, you can get $5 off the silver coin by using the promo code DEACON. And if you're rich and you want some gold, if you want the gold Trump coin, use the offer code DEACON GOLD and get $100 off of that coin. Man, let me tell you, you need to support that man. We're going to go way back, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go so far back. And if you're a Mason and you're here today, if you're here and a Mason and you think that Masonry began in some lodge in the medieval times, it's not true. I want you to know that what I'm about to read is what Masons believe. It is not what I believe. Most of it. There are some truths in here that are just universal. But I'm going to read to you what they believe. They believe that Freemasonry is the parent of all religions. No? You don't believe that, Mr. Mason? You don't believe that? Well, listen. Listen to what I am saying, what I am reading from your own material. This is from ancient Freemasonry. It might be in your library at your lodge, but you wouldn't know, see, because you don't get into all that. You don't read all that stuff. You just think they're a bunch of old books. Plus, you wouldn't be such a supporting member. You wouldn't give so much money if you knew all this stuff. See, you wouldn't, and they don't want you to know yet. You got to prove yourself by doing all of these initiatory rites to try to get higher and higher and higher. And then, because you're always chasing some secret knowledge. But the real secret knowledge is used to control you. With the recent explorations in the Sudan region of Africa, of the ruins of Napata, the ancient capital of Ethiopia, which is the Kush of the Old Testament, bringing to light an ancient temple of Ammon, containing a huge Masonic altar, and with archaeologists getting ready to renew their explorations in Palestine and the Euphrates Valley, antiquarians are expecting further additions to the vast mass of evidence of the worldwide spread of primitive Freemasonry, which concealed in its rites, symbols, and ceremonies the teachings and belief in the grand architect and great geometrician of the universe, a one and supreme God. That's what they teach you. See, you call him the great geometrician, the grand architect. An architect needs materials to build. Our God, Yahweh, doesn't need anything because he is the God of the universe. He created all. The great architect did not. We may expect the explorations to bring to light much new material that will link, and this part I believe is true. We may expect the explorations to bring to light much new material that will link the mound builders of the Mississippi Valley, the Mayas and Yucatan, the ancient Egyptians and the Chaldees into one primitive brotherhood. It is true that Freemasonry is the parent of all religion. That's what they say. That's not true. You cannot believe the Bible and believe that that's true. You can't call yourself a Christian and believe that that's true. But yet you think that, right? You got your Bible and you read it every day, but it's got that square and a compass with the G in the middle on the cover. You can't be a Christian and believe this. It is true that Freemasonry is the parent of all religion, they believe. The original worldwide cosmic gnosis, or knowledge. It's Gnosticism. The worldwide cosmic gnosis, diffused in ancient times to the uttermost ends of the earth. Freemasonry is the Pompeii of prehistoric science. All the Masonic ritual, its Egyptian signs, its Chaldean crypts, its Sanskrit passwords, its ancient Hebrew symbols, its Kabbalistic allusions, and its historical record are supremely scientific and a survival through long ages by various underground channels of the knowledge of the universe, which was gained by Sabian astronomers from the temple tops of Chaldea, India, and China, and recorded by the equally learned geometers and mathematicians of the ancient Orient. It was this knowledge, concealed within the brotherhood, that enabled them to build the gigantic sundials such as that at Stonehenge in England. The two pillars of masonry today are the same as those which stood before the Temple of Solomon, erected by the same building fraternity under the supervision of the priest architects who built the Sun, S-U-N, temple at Tyre, before which similar pillars stood. Remember, this is what they believe. A lot of it is true. These historical facts. They are the same pillars that stood before the ancient temples in America when Cortez gazed in wonder on the civilizations of the Aztecs, then set out to destroy them. They are the same pillars that fixed the solstitial points. Solstitial means sun, like sundial. Fixed the solstitial points in the first crude circles, and the same pillars which became the temple of Janus among the Romans, the totem poles of modern savages, and the Jacqueline and Boaz of European cathedrals. The key to the entire secret system is to be found in the ancient method preserved from ages long anterior to their reputed time by the Israelites of using identical characters for letters and numbers, a system called gematria. I'll read that again. The key to the entire secret system is to be found in the ancient method preserved from ages long anterior to their reputed time by the Israelites of using identical characters for letters and numbers, a system called gematria, and upon which a simple mathematical formula, 10, 5, 6, 5, this picture right here, 10.5.6.5 is shown to be the basic source of all manifested existence. That formula, when presented in the Hebrew letters corresponding to the numbers being Jad, Ha, Ve, Ha, or in English, JHVH, or Jehovah. That's where the term Jehovah comes from, my friends. It comes from the geometry of the universe. It comes from the creation. Jehovah comes from this symbol and using gematria to arrive at that name. It's not Yahweh. If this remarkable fact had been confined to the sacred writings of the Hebrews, it might be expected as a peculiar outcropping of national genius. But this is not the case. My researches reveal the presence of an esoteric or mystery Jehovah worship throughout the entire ancient world as the basis of all the outwardly pantheistic cults. Outwardly pantheistic cults. So you're a Christian and you're in a Masonic lodge. You are participating in pantheism. God being part of and in the creation. The worship of trees and birds and crawling things. The worship of the creation rather than the creator. My research revealed the presence of an esoteric or mystery Jehovah worship throughout the entire ancient world as the basis of all the outwardly pantheistic cults. The real knowledge being concealed from the masses by the priesthood and rulers. Because it was too high for them to grasp, they thought. That's why the Mason calls you and I the profane, the savages, the ones incapable of using our brains. That's why the politicity, the politics, those that are in the politicity, like Nadler and Nancy and all these folks, Pelosi, Schumer, they think that you are an imbecile. It was concealed from the masses by the priesthood and rulers because it was too high for them to grasp. The worship of the great first principle, defined and also hidden by the mathematical Jehovah glyph, that's what that is, was at one time spread over the whole expanse of anciently civilized America. Whether represented by the vanished race of mound builders of our own United States or the perished races of Mexico, Central and South America. This latter wonderful fact, they call it wonderful. See, they call it wonderful, but every single one of these civilizations has disappeared. It is gone. Why? Because of socialism. 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 Masonry created socialism. This latter wonderful fact may as readily be verified by the visitor to such a purely American collection as that in the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, or the American Museum of Natural History in New York, as by the digger in Euphrates mud or Egyptian sands. The crowning secret of the ancients, as well as our own time, is that the study of the structural proportions of our universe as evidenced in lines of force and direction, cyclic time periods, celestial areas, and visible parts reveals the fact, ladies and gentlemen, that it is of definite form, perfectly balanced proportion, and just such a synthesis of the principles of pure geometry as to show that the features exhibited are from the same causative source as that which geometrizes the snowflake, the crystal, and the flower blossom. Hence the expression used in Masonry of the grand architect and the great geometrician of the universe. So man saw how wonderful it was. And through prehistoric science, saw that all things were proportionate to each other, that all things were proportionate to that Jehovah glyph. And they worshiped it, ladies and gentlemen. They worshiped it, rather than beholding the invisible God who created it. They needed to know. They thought that they were the ones in the know. The Gnostics. The ancient Egyptians adopted as the key to the great cosmic philosophy the famous Pythagorean triangle of 3 by 4 by 5. Proportions, which is the basis of the celebrated 47th proposition of Euclid. They called the three sides Osiris, Isis, and Horus. Oh, that sounds like a real Christian religion, doesn't it? That sounds like the God of the Bible. We're talking about Isis, Osiris, and Horus of Egypt. They called the three sides Osiris, Isis, and Horus, considering the first two as spirit and matter, and the latter as nature, evolved from the wedding of the other two. This triangle, represented as the eye of Horus and typifying the sun, became the all-seeing eye of Freemasonry, and as Bill Cooper would say, is on every single $1 bill that you have in your wallet right this very minute. The value of the Hebrew letters in the famous triangle is 543, which is half of an oblong of 3 by 4, the other half of which, also known as 345. The sum of both equals 888, and is the value of the letters in the Greek New Testament name Jesus, Jesus. And that part's true. All things were made for him and by him. And he signed his name, just like any artist would put their name on their creation. A painter or a potter, someone who makes pottery, they're going to sign their name somewhere. Well, the Lord has signed his name on it, but they don't worship him. They worship the creation. This is what the Pythagorean triangle looks like. I'm sure you've seen it if you've looked into masonry before. Right there. The sum of both equals 888 and is the value of the letters in the Greek New Testament name Jesus. And Jesus. An oblong of 3 by 4 contains 3 of 4 by 9 and vice versa. The oblong of 4 by 9 was represented symbolically as the Atef crown on the head of the Egyptian sun god Ra, whose name really means light. They worship the light. They worship Ra. They worship Luz. Same principle. From this simple proportion alone, according to the methods of the ancient Egyptians, can be at once delineated all the main physical features of our universe in absolute correct astronomical proportions, and in so doing the trapezoid of 10-5-6-5 proportions, which became known as JHVH among the Jews, IHOH in Phoenicia, IHUH in Chaldea, HUHI in Egypt, Hoi Hahu in India, Hoi Hai and Fo Hai in China, listen very carefully, and Iowa in ancient America, Iowa, as in the state. We find the Jehovah symbol as the shoulders and arms of Osiris as he judges the souls in enmity in the Egyptian Book of the Dead, and as the apron worn by the mysterious stone colossi of Corregula, Guatemala, copies of which are in our own American Museum of Natural History. We find the Masonic keystone to be not merely an architectural requisite, but the angle, listen to this, The keystone, ladies and gentlemen, the keystone. Let's see if I can find you a good picture of the keystone. The keystone. Keystone is shaped like this. And you would have an archway come off of it, and that holds the arch in place. That's the keystone. This is prehistoric science. This is why it amazes people, right? And we talked about that last book I was reading, where it makes people in awe of them, thus putting them into a position to be worshipped. And when a man is worshipped, he has supreme control over the mind of the person who worships him or obeys him, as in politics, the governing ones, the illumined ones, luminaries. We find the Masonic keystone to be not merely an architectural requisite, but the angle of 23.5 degrees, or the correct inclination of the axis of the earth to the pole of the ecliptic, and to embody the vertical section of the Great Pyramid of Giza 4 times repeated. If you were to go back and listen to a video I did on the second sacrifice, where I talk about the murder of those 3 boys in Mississippi in 1964, I show how that their murder was a ritualistic killing, and that this is one of the reasons that they were murdered on a specific day, because the sun and the earth's axis was at 23.5 degrees. It's very important to these people. We find the little clay idols of the departed aboriginal races of Colombia, South America, decorated with the geometrical glyphs of this secret order, the ornaments of the robes of the ancient Inca priests in Peru, but exemplifications of the same sacred figures and the amulets of the Mayas and Toltecs in Mexico are also engraved with them. That there must have been some worldwide organization to distribute these symbols in ancient and prehistoric times is evinced by the fact that by common consent, the ancient Egyptians and the ancient Mexicans constructed pyramids, which is shown by the Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt and in Tikali of Chichen Itza, Yucatan, as leading examples, and were component parts of a single geometrical problem, the key to which is the simple Masonic apron, as worn today, and the graphic symbol of which covenant is still preserved as a cosmic figure among the Hopi Indians in Arizona. I'll be right back. Folks, if you like this material, if you like this channel, first of all, subscribe to the channel if this is your first time here, and click on that bell to make sure you get all alerts. Subscribe to this channel. If you want that Trump coin, if you want to commemorate President Trump, go to the link in the video description. Use the keyword or the offer code deacon and get $5 off of that silver coin. If you want the coin and that silver bar, which is beautiful, use Deacon 30 and get $30 off the combo. And if you want gold, if you want a gold coin, a gold Trump coin, use Deacon Gold and get $100 off that coin. Support this channel. Support Noble Gold. In discussing the Masonic keystone, Mr. Higgins displayed examples. That's who is part of the writing of this book back in, how old is this? This is old. This is, again, another really old one. See, you got to go to the original source, folks. Original source. You know, and people keep saying, morals and dogma, morals and dogma. Well, we're going to look at that, but everyone looks at morals and dogma. I don't want to look at that right away. I want it to be one of the last things I look at because it's so popular. This book was published in 1923. This is, of course, a reprint, and it is in the video description if you'd like a copy. In discussing the Masonic keystone, Mr. Higgins displayed examples picked up in his travel from China, India, ancient Tyre, Egypt, and Palestine that were all cut on the angle of 23.5 degrees. But perhaps his most precious specimen were several black serpentine amulets from Yucatan in Central America, more than 3,000 years old, that displayed the keystone and also the inverted Tau cross, so familiar to Masonic brethren in their lodge work. So familiar. In pointing out the triangle of equal areas on the forehead of the amulet and the keystone nose, Mr. Higgins drew attention to the fact that the Jewish worshiper today describes with his fingers the triangle in the same place when making his invocation on the Day of Atonement. That triangle is the 3x4x5 triangle. So the Jewish worshiper on the Day of Atonement, when he makes that symbol in the air, he doesn't even realize that he's signing the name of Jesus. That is wonderful to me. And it's a shame that these people miss it. I call it the secret of kings. That they are hiding from you. They're hiding from you that the Creator, Jesus Christ himself, has signed his name on all of creation. They're hiding it from you because if everyone knew, they would worship him. And they don't want you to worship him. They want you to worship them. Another exceedingly rare specimen was an early Akkadian or Hittite seal, expressing a triangle with 3 Masonic dots and the sacred proportions of 3x4 and 4x5, a total of 16, meaning Yah, the universe. The universe. While these keystones are very valuable in proving my contentions that Freemasonry was widespread even in prehistoric times, I consider the Masonic apron preeminent as the symbol of the hidden mysteries of Masonry. It, too, is based on the Pythagorean triangle, which, as I said, was used to conceal the mysteries of the Egyptian religion. The priests knew that the letters IOH or JVH, which were publicly applied to the sides of the triangle and called Isis, Osiris, and Horus, were the secret mathematical formulae which they considered to be the key to the universe. To the universe. If you will read a good, let's see what time it is. If you will read in a good book on mythology the story of the death of Osiris slain by his brother Typhon, and the long search for his mutilated body by his disconsolate widow Isis, you will understand, especially if you are a Mason, how the hope of humanity was fixed on the widow's son, the youthful spring sun god, Huram, or Urim, as his name was abbreviated, whose birth also constituted the resurrection of his father, Osiris, with whom he was identified. The development of the famous Pythagorean triangle also forms the triangle that is the base of the Masonic Tau cross. The multiplication of the Pythagorean triangle by 4 gives the base for the Magian's philosophy and develops the form of the Masonic apron just as worn today in the lodge room. It is the 64 square that I refer to, and this square, in our familiar checkerboard, also has hidden within it the exact geometrical proportions of the Giza pyramid. Because they were Masons. Whatever is the predominant religion of the people that Masons want to control, that is the God that they identify with. Perhaps the most interesting Egyptian cut that I have is that showing Pharaoh invested with the triangular Masonic apron, holding in his right hand the grand Masonic emblem and the last grade attained, the Ankh cross, in Masonic communication with one of that order, whose head is covered with a mask representing the head of the god Thoth. Examination of the old Egyptian monuments or pictures of such reveal the fact that the apron is the badge of all the gods, kings, hierophants, and priests engaged in the rites of public worship. The government, ladies and gentlemen. The apron of the ordinary celebrant seems to be a triangle of white cloth suspended from the waist in front and pinned at the corners to the tunic at each side. In the case of the Grand Master, the apron is very elaborate in design. In the case of the Grand Master, the apron is very elaborate in design. The figures represent the rising and setting sun in the lower corners and the sun at meridian. The rays of the sun are so directed as to describe a regular progression of geometrical angles such as seen on a gnomon. Over this sun apron is worn the serpent apron. The modern Masonic apron, as worn in lodge and chapter, has descended intact in every particular form these ancient brethren of the square and compass. From these ancient brethren of the square and compass. It is readily shown that the secret of the apron resides, which is the keystone. It is readily shown that the secret of the apron resides entirely in its proportions and showed by a diagram that they were based on a triangle having an apex of 54 degrees and two bottom angles of 63 degrees each. He said that these two numbers were both eminently sacred Masonic numerals belonging to the 9. The 9 are 3 times 3 series. It can be demonstrated that the proportions of the Egyptian pyramids were all concealed in the same geometrical figure upon which the Masonic apron was constructed. And from his cases of relics brought out several amulet aprons that were true in angle are indicated by dots or indentations, the true proportions. A copy from a Peruvian vase which show a priest of the Incas carrying a staff with a 6-pointed star in one hand and holding a Masonic apron in the other. This figure, which may be seen in the American Museum of Natural History in New York, is displayed throughout the Adian ruins or modifications of the apron are run into borders around the Incan pottery. Perhaps the best example in America is that found on the statues and little clay images of ancient Mayas which litter the jungle forests of the Yucatan on the sites of the ruined cities. These images, as he showed by specimens, are all clothed as master masons in the same apron as the Egyptian kings and priests, and point irrefutably to a universal knowledge of secrets behind the square and compass. We see thus indicated throughout the world, ladies and gentlemen, the Masonic Brotherhood, erected thousands of years prior to any civilization of which we have any present record, to the same ever-living God whom we worship. It is not the same God that we worship. It is not. But for you, the Christian Mason, the Muslim Mason, the Chinese Mason, the Hindu Mason, it is the same. It is the same. To the same ever-living God whom you worship and reverence as the great architect of the universe. Not the God of the Bible, but a pantheistic God. So if you are in a lodge and you call yourself a Christian, if you have given your life to Christ, if you've given your life to Christ, you've got a demon in your life, and it's called Lucifer. And you cannot be devoted to the God of the Bible and to Lucifer at the same time. Thank you, and God bless you all. Turn it up.
socialist country.